Então, já como são 15 horas, eu vou dar início à nossa live. Eu vou mudar um pouco, falar algumas palavras primeiro em português e depois algumas palavras em espanhol, de forma a saudar todos os presentes. Meu nome é Felipe Diniz, eu sou Adido Econômico e Comercial da Embaixada de Luxemburgo para o Brasil e para o Chile. Entonces, de esta manera, les saludo a todos los presentes desde Brasil o Chile. Mi nombre es Felipe Diniz, soy el agregado econômico da Embajada Luxemburguesa para Chile e para Brasil. Hoje a gente vai contar com a primeira live, com a primeira conversa de uma série de lives que a nossa embaixada pretende tomar a cabo. Hoje é a primeira live, é o primeiro webinar de una serie de webinars que nuestra embajada planea ejecutar de manera a aproximar Chile, Brasil e Luxemburgo. Hoje a gente está contando com a presença do Sven Beltes, que é o responsável pelos programas de aceleração da Lux Innovation, que é a agência para inovação de Luxemburgo. Y hoy nosotros tenemos la presencia de Sven Beltes, quien es el responsable por la parte de aceleración de startups de Lux Innovation, la agencia para innovación de Luxemburgo. Como ya son las 3, I'll give the word to Sven. Now we're going to switch into English, as I think it's a common language to everyone here. Chile, Brazil, Luxembourg. And Sven, now you're free to start your presentation and tell us a little bit more about Luxembourg. Just in order to make things clear, by the end of the presentation, we are going to accept doubts and questions, but please expose those doubts and questions through the chat, okay? Not by microphone, otherwise we can be it's going to get really confused. Okay, so Sven, you can start.
Perfect. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you very much for organizing this event. We're very well done, and welcome to everybody here that is joining us. I think very warm good evening here from Luxembourg. I think it's a good afternoon in Chile and Brazil for this presentation here on Luxembourg and why Luxembourg constitutes a great place to start up and scale your business. My name is Sven, as Philippe already mentioned. I'm a startup acceleration advisor at Lux Innovation, which is the national agency for research and innovation in Luxembourg. I have divided this presentation into two main parts. So first of all, a more general macro view on Luxembourg, the Grão-Ducado, and then in a second phase, we are talking more concretely about the startup ecosystem in Luxembourg and also the Fit for Start program, the main and flagship acceleration program in Luxembourg. That being said, I hope that you all can understand me clearly and also see my presentation on the screen. And then I would really like to start. Enjoy. So first of all, let's start with some general facts and figures about Luxembourg. So first of all, we are a very small country in the heart of Europe, which with just a bit more than 600,000 inhabitants. However, we are also a very international country, with almost 50% of the population being foreigners and over 170 different nationalities in the country. We are also in the heart of the greater region, which is almost 14 million inhabitants. And we were a founding member of the European Union, which is why we also host a range of EU institutions in Luxembourg, such as the European Investment Bank here in the Grão-Ducado. That being said, let's talk about one key strength of Luxembourg as a country, which is our highly skilled and cosmopolitan workforce. Luxembourgers, really the national Luxembourgers, speak French, Luxembourgish and German, while English is widely spoken in the country and constitutes probably with French the main business language of the country. Again, as already mentioned before, we are highly international, which we can also see in the workforce, with 70% of foreigners being part of the workforce, and over 200,000 people commuting every day to Luxembourg from Belgium, France, and Germany, to do their job in Luxembourg. So what we really think here is we are very open, we are very international, and we do not only think Luxembourg, we think greater region, but we also think Europe. And that's also what we want to communicate. And we want startups, companies, people that come to Luxembourg to adopt from day one. And we would also like to support them in adopting this same approach from the very first day they are in Luxembourg, they come to Luxembourg. For the moment, Luxembourg is already a home to various multinational companies, namely, for example, Microsoft, but also SES, the satellite company, and Amazon. Amazon actually is one of the biggest employers here in Luxembourg. Just last week, new figures regarding employment were published here in Luxembourg, with Amazon being the 10th biggest one, with almost 3,000 people in the country by now. Clearly, to be frankly speaking, some of those companies came to Luxembourg for sure due to tax incentives or other kind of incentives that were put in place. However, a lot of them that stayed because they discovered an innovative landscape, a very good ecosystem here in Luxembourg that makes them further develop their organization here, and also other innovative activities in the country. As you probably all know, Luxembourg is very well known for its financial industries. It has been in the past, it has a lot of history in those fields. However, also in the present still, this is of course a key driver of the Luxembourgish economy. However, the government would like to diversify the economy. We should not only focus on one specific field, but rather diversify and go for other priority sectors that could in the future drive the Luxembourgish economy, which is on the one hand, for example, clean technologies, but also health technologies. I think a lot of you joining the webinar today are actually in the field of health. So that's also clearly something that the Luxembourg government is fostering. Then also, for example, Luxembourg is very well known for space, and even put in place a very own organism here in Luxembourg, which is the Luxembourg Space Agency, which is directly treating requests and supporting companies, but also startups, of course, that are working in the field of space. That being said, Luxembourg does not stop with defining additional priority fields apart from, for example, the traditional fintech sector. Luxembourg really also elaborated and defined a data-driven innovation strategy, something where we want to head to, but which is of course a multi-step process, starting with digitization of first processes, of first industries, going over a digital transformation process towards a whole data economy. And the country is clearly welcoming talented people, but also innovative companies that would like to support this transition from digitization towards a data economy, but also, of course, in a second step, would like to invite the companies to benefit from this data-driven economy, data-driven strategy, etc., etc. So that's clearly something where the government also wants those companies to benefit in a second stage from this, from this strategy put in place and this strategy being implemented in the future. For now, clearly, we are still very much in the early shoes of this transformation process. However, it's going into the right direction, and we are executing more and more on this digital data-driven innovation strategy. Coming back on the priority fields that I've just presented a second ago, this is also clearly something very connected to the digital data-driven economy strategy. By actually applying the strategy, we are trying to revolutionize those sectors. We are trying to innovate and yeah, bringing new opportunities in the different sectors that the different companies, startups, people, the players in general can benefit from in the second stage, and in the end foster new business opportunities in exactly those sectors between every kind of yeah, involved parties. Talking digital innovation strategy, we also have to clearly talk digital infrastructure, but also knowledge, digital knowledge, for example, here in Luxembourg. And that's something the government, but also the private side clearly focuses on by actually implementing, by building, for example, Europe's most modern data centers. We have 23 in total in Luxembourg, with having 8 of them being the highly certified, or the most high certified Tier 4 certification. And on the other side, we also have a good expertise in cybersecurity, for example, with an organization called Security Made in Luxembourg. In FinTech, WegTech, we have an organization called The Loft, which is the Luxembourg House of Financial Technology, that is just there to create win-win situations for actors in the field of FinTech, financial technologies. But Luxembourg, of course, in the future wants to further develop this digital infrastructure by, for example, hosting the high-performance computer, meaning the headquarters, the European headquarters of this supercomputer, as we call it, will be in Luxembourg and is scheduled for end of 2020, probably also due to COVID now. This is going more into the direction of beginning of 2021. That was the very first part on Luxembourg in general. Secondly, and I think that's also very important and very relevant to this presentation, would be Startup Luxembourg. The startup ecosystem here in Luxembourg, which is for the moment still a very young ecosystem. However, there is a lot of activities, initiatives in place, as Luxembourg has announced to become a startup nation in the near future, which is why there's happening a lot of activities in the startup ecosystem. Key assets for the moment are that is a very fast growing ecosystem. It's a prime gateway to Europe, meaning companies that are international, have a clearly international footprint, can come to Europe, can come to Luxembourg and see Luxembourg as a gateway to Europe. We have the greater region, we have Germany, France, for example, and Belgium. With those, we have very attractive markets, European markets, very close to Luxembourg, which is why this is actually a very attractive opportunity for international companies to step foot in the European markets. But then also a clear differentiator and a clear advantage that Luxembourg can offer is a very easy access to corporates and decision makers or any kind of decision makers on the public and private side here in Luxembourg. In general, the ways are very short and decision-making processes, can be facilitated due to very short ways. And then, of course, we always speak also about a very business-friendly environment here in Luxembourg. This is a snapshot of the Luxembourgish startup ecosystem. We have, again, as you already have recognized probably, some of the priority fields that we already discussed before: space, ICT, but of course also FinTech. And there's a lot of companies that actually grew from Luxembourg, as just discussed, to Europe. We have well-known companies such as Spire in space, Job Today in ICT, but also former companies that participated actually in the Fit for Start program, namely in the ICT vertical would be Salonki, for example, in ICT, or Lux AI in the field of HealthTech, which actually participated in the very first pilot edition of this HealthTech vertical that is now going into the 3rd edition. The academic research landscape in Luxembourg is also something that the ministry and the government clearly wants to foster. The ministry is encouraging startups and every kind of companies to collaborate with research institutions in order to create win-win situations between both of them and to create value propositions that clearly have a good value added for the customer in the end. The fostering and the encouragement of those collaboration is also based on a financial nature, meaning that if startups collaborate with some of those research institutions, or one of those research institutions, actually, the financial support, namely subsidies, can increase in quota. But it always depends, of course, on a case-by-case basis and has to be discussed individually on an individual case basis. One of the interesting research institutions we have in Luxembourg is the S&T, which is a specialist in cybersecurity, fintech, and IoT, for example, and is actually having more than 40 active collaborations at the moment. Then something maybe more interesting for you, is the Luxembourg Institute of Health, which is fostering and focusing on biomedical sciences research and the impact of those for the customers. And then, of course, I think in the end, the University of Luxembourg, still a very young university, is also very well known and demonstrates again how international Luxembourg as a country is, with over 6,000 students that come from more than 100 different countries and backgrounds. And actually the University of Luxembourg has ranked 12th worldwide in the Young University ranking just recently, speaking also about the quality, the educational quality and the research, the academic research quality of the University of Luxembourg. Open innovation is also a topic that is really, really important in Luxembourg. We are having big names and really attractive groups here in Luxembourg, as mentioned before. Amazon, for example. In logistics, we could talk about Cargolux or Kühne & Nagel. In finance, this could be Clearstream or BGL. And then, as mentioned, also various EU institutions. And it's our job actually at Lux Innovation, or part of our job is also to foster new startups collaborating with those by having collaboration opportunities, but also doing proof of concepts. In the end, it's all about creating an innovative and dynamic collaboration between you and some of those actors in order to create attractive projects that can in the end really create a value added for both parties involved in such a project. This is the Luxembourg startup ecosystem at a glance from a very different side. Before we discussed the startups being part of the ecosystem, now this is the support environment of startups in Luxembourg. On the very left, we have institutional startup support actors. Among those, we have Lux Innovation, which is supporting mainly as an extended arm of the Ministry of Economy in order to get access to public finance. But then also the very well-known House of Entrepreneurship, which is treating the administrative side of business creation and setup in Luxembourg. Then we have various incubators, accelerators, and innovation hubs. Technoport is one of the oldest incubators we have here in Luxembourg, with 2 locations actually in the country. We have the Luxembourg City Incubator, which is part of the newly created, or in 2017 opened House of Startups. But then also we have sector-specific incubators such as the Loft or the House of Biohealth. Then, of course, also on the corporate side, on the private side, there's initiatives, namely initiatives from the Big Four, so PwC Accelerator Program, or the Cube by KPMG is also initiatives that support startups on the private side. And then, of course, we have some dedicated startup programs. Nadifin is one of those, which is an initiative from the Loft and by the Loft, one also by the Loft in collaboration with different partners. And then, of course, also, as mentioned before, flagship acceleration program Fit for Start, that we will also see in greater details in a minute or two. And then last but not least, there's also a number of international events here in Luxembourg. ICT Spring Europe is one of those, but also the Arch Summit is an event that is still very fresh and new, but already attracted a lot of international companies to Luxembourg, in order to promote their products and yeah, discover the local startup ecosystem here in Luxembourg. The last slide actually before talking about Fit for Start is funding. Funding, of course, also plays a vital role in the startup world, and that's why also in Luxembourg, starting with, for example, an initiative called the Luxembourg Future Fund, which is a combined initiative from the SNCI and the European Investment Bank. As mentioned before, they are located in Luxembourg. Those are investing in international companies with VC funds. Some companies already have benefited from those, for example, Spire, a space company here in Luxembourg. Then the SNCI is also not only investing in collaboration with the EIB, but also focuses on giving out loans to innovative companies and to foster innovation activities here in Luxembourg. We have a digital tech fund, which is providing public-private combined seed funding to startups. It's an initiative, among others, from Expand Capital, a VC here in Luxembourg. And there we can see, for example, that Passport and Zelonki, which are two Fit for Start companies of Fit for Start graduates, even benefited already from funding from the digital tech fund. That being said, of course, if we talk funding, we also have to talk public funding, meaning this is instruments and funding available from the Ministry of Economy. So on the one side, we have research, development, and innovation specific schemes. So schemes working more upstream that are available to companies here in Luxembourg in order to develop platforms, to further adapt their platforms, include further and additional features in the platforms, for example. And then we also have the Young Innovative Enterprise, which is a scheme that works downstream actually and is there to support scaling, which is a grant, or can be a grant of up to 800,000 euros for innovative startups that have a good amount of traction on the market and can already and that are younger than 5 years at the application stage. Let's talk Fit for Start, which is also one of the main reasons I think you are all here today. Fit for Start is the main flagship acceleration program here in Luxembourg. It's an initiative from the Ministry of Economy. It's managed and run by Lux Innovation on the operational level, and of course also involves some partners, which is Technoport, the Luxembourg City Incubator, the House of Biohealth, but then also for the space vertical, for example, the Luxembourg Space Agency. Fit for Start was launched in 2015 with a very small pilot edition, actually. That was 3 startups, I think, in the end, participating to the program. By now, we are offering 2 editions per year, with over 35 startups being selected to the program and being funded from the Ministry of Economy with the help of Fit for Start. Per year, we receive approximately 1,000 applications, and over 70 startups have already benefited and participated from the Fit for Start program. Usually, and before COVID, maybe to mention here, we had 2 pitching and graduation days per year, meaning that's a day where we invite approximately 50 to 70 startups to Luxembourg, dependent on the number of verticals that we include in the edition, that will be pitching on stage, and then at the end of the day will be selected or not selected to the program. For each of those days, we always have like 500 plus attendance, which is a highly attractive networking opportunity for startups, because we have serial entrepreneurs being there, we have corporates, we have people from the ecosystem, but also from the ministries that are participating in this event and can give these startups the opportunity to network with those people. As just mentioned, there is no pitching and graduation day for the moment due to COVID-19. This is why we have a next time digital pitching sessions, which are taking place between the 29th of September of this year and the 9th of October of the same year. These are the eligibility criteria requirements, I'm sorry, to participate in Fit for Start. As mentioned before, the program is open to ICT, health tech, and space companies. The companies need to be younger than 5 years. However, there does not need to be a company already incorporated at application stage, meaning that projects or ventures that are only in a very early stage and are only at project level can be applying to Fit for Start. Then we have a team requirement, meaning that you need to be at least 2 people on the project. And when we say 2 people on the project, that does not necessarily mean that the founding team needs to be composed of 2 people, but you as a solo founder can, for example, have a team, another team member that can of course be counted in here in order to fulfill the team requirement. The development stage currently in Fit for Start is around MVP or later. And here we have the perks of Fit for Start, so the benefits of the program. First of all, we are talking expert coaching of 6 months. The expert coaching is composed into 2 parts. So on the one side, we have coaches involved that will see the startups over the course of the whole program, meaning every month or every 6 weeks, and really can manage and follow the startups in every step they take during the program. But then, of course, we also involve a so-called subject matter experts, and they intervene on a need basis, kind of, and talk about different topics that are relevant to the startups in general. This could be subjects such as GDPR, could also be subjects in health tech, for example, about clinical trials, etc., etc. And those topics are always, after each edition, we are evaluating the relevancy of those different topics and adapt those over the course of the, or in preparation actually of the next program. Then a highly attractive part of the program is the funding. So as mentioned before, the Ministry of Economy is the initiator of the program. That means that up to 150,000 euro of equity-free funding is available to the startups. The grant works on a 2-tranche mechanism. 50,000 euros are the startups eligible for if they create a company in Luxembourg and are selected to the program, and additional 100,000 euros are given to those startups that in the end graduate successfully from the program. And graduation is linked to certain individual objectives that are set together with the jury and the coaches. And also if the startups can raise an additional 50K and fulfill a certain number of substance criteria. So in the end, you have a subsidy and equity-free amount of 150,000 euros that you can use either for business development activities or for product development intentions. As mentioned before, Technopod and Luxembourg, the Luxembourg City Incubator are part of this program, meaning are a partner, which is why they are giving free access to their co-working spaces during the program. And of course, this is something that should foster, that should function as a base service, meaning you as international companies do not need to worry about the incubator, about office space, but B, of course, should foster the integration into the Luxembourg startup ecosystem, and should open collaboration possibilities between you, other startups, and the other actors that are working in and from the different incubators. And then last but not least, of course, an acceleration program is not the same without its networking opportunities. As mentioned, from the incubator, already we hope for a networking effect, but of course, other than that, we have coaches, we have the jury involved, we have the Lux Innovation people, the ministry people involved in the acceleration program, and all of those people really do not hesitate to put you in touch with any kind of business opportunities here in Luxembourg. This could be, as mentioned before, research institutions, but could also be potential partners, potential customers, potential proof of concepts, etc., etc. So this is also, again, aimed at integrating you into the Luxembourgish startup ecosystem and showing you clearly what kind of business opportunities Luxembourg first of all, can bring to you, but then of course, secondly, also looking at the greater region and Europe, because as we see it, Luxembourg is the gateway or a gateway to Europe. This is how the program evolved over time. As mentioned before, yeah, indeed, in 2015, pilot edition, 9 applications only, and 3 projects, of who 2 graduated in the end. In the 5th edition, or until the 5th edition, we had around 100 applications with 5 projects selected at the time. While from the 6th edition, which was still only in focusing on ICT, we selected always 10 projects to the program that could benefit from the 4 benefits that I just presented. And then after that, we started integrating additional verticals, namely HealthTech and the space vertical. And this is why we are at the moment combined 2 editions per year at around 35 projects selected and funded with Fit for Start. These are the companies that participated in the program, as mentioned, 3, 5, and 10 until edition 6. And from then on, of course, we had 15. In edition 7, it was space and, no, sorry, it was HealthTech and ICT. In edition 9, for example, we had the 3 verticals combined for the first time, which is why we had 20 participants of the program. Now, let's get back to what is happening currently. So we have a call for applications in HealthTech that was opened approximately 2 weeks ago and will be open until the 7th of September. Startups in HealthTech in the main fields of digital health, medical software and connected devices, medical devices, in vitro diagnostics and biotech pharma are welcome to submit their application until the first week of September. And then, of course, in the second phase will be selected or not to the digital pitching sessions. This announcement will take place on the 11th of September. And then, as mentioned before, between the 28th of September and the 9th of October, you would already have the chance to pitch your startup in front of our expert jury during the digital pitching sessions here in digital pitching sessions. And if selected, benefit from, at the moment, still foreseen to be a physical program in Luxembourg as of January 2021. However, we are closely monitoring, of course, the situation and adapt accordingly if necessary. That's it for the presentation. If understood correctly by discussing with Felipe, I think I should guide you also quickly through the application form, which is why I'm quickly ending the presentation here and then go to the application of the Fit for Start HealthTech form. Just a second, please. Here we are. I hope that's fine. Felipe, could you just tell me if you can see the screen?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. So actually, the application form itself is very startup friendly, I would say. You do not need to submit a business plan, a heavy written document, for example. So it's an online application form split into 3 main parts. First of all, contact information. Then we have your project details. So there we really go into your project descriptions. And then we have also the financial situation of the company or project in that sense. And then, of course, in the end, we have a bit of additional information, but that's just, the last pieces of information that you would need to provide in this application form. So in the beginning, we are talking project name, website, for example, incorporation, if incorporated, incorporation date, address, so really basic information, also very basic information about the people involved. As mentioned before, it's 2 people that should be on the program, which is why we are having the contact details here of 2 people. Then you will be going on to the project part of the application form. So here's the industry. So these are the main ones. Of course, if you have any other company in the field of health tech, of course, you can apply to the program, and our experts will analyze the fit with the Luxembourg ecosystem, Luxembourg health tech ecosystem, and see if it makes sense to select startups to the program. Then something that is a very important element in this application form is the elevator pitch. So we ask you to provide a 1-minute video pitch where you are discussing the main aspects of your venture. Could be the value proposition, the key differentiators on the market, but also focusing a bit on the team, because the team is crucial in the end in every venture. So that's something here to be provided. Just a heads up here, maybe. So we do not expect any kind of professional animated marketing videos, stuff like that. So really a normal recording of yourself or of your team speaking for 1 minute about the project is very welcome. And then we have information on the value proposition to be provided on the market, on the competition, unique selling point, the market, but then also for health tech, protection strategies, IP that you already applied for, etc., etc. The development stage of the company is, of course, also crucial, as we mentioned before. And then a very important part as well is the team, because the quality of the team in the end can make a high impact in such a venture. Talking about financials, we are talking mainly about grants. Have you already benefited from grants? What is the source? And how much did you get? Etc., etc. And then something that is new from this edition on is that we also ask, the startup to provide an overview or an estimation about how you intend to use the grant provided in the program. So meaning the 150,000 euros, as mentioned before, the use of proceeds can be allocated to business development, can be allocated also to product development activities. However, we would like to have a bit of an overview on how you intend to use the money granted in the frame of the program. I have no file selected, so let's do that to move on here. There we are. Then we can move on. Here we have another few last questions about your participation in similar programs, for example, and mainly also about why Luxembourg constitutes an attractive place to be for you. So why do you see Luxembourg as an attractive place? What is the strategic interest in Luxembourg of the venture? What do you gain also from, or what do you intend to gain from Fit for Start? And of course, we also ask a bit for references, so people can confirm your entrepreneurial vita at the end of this application file. Then you will just need to accept our GDPR policy and are ready to go. And as mentioned, this application file needs to be submitted until the 7th of September, and we will get back to the startups, to all of the startups, with an answer by the 11th of September. And then if selected, you have the chance to participate in digital pitching sessions at the end of September and in the beginning of October. That's all from my side for the moment. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and discovered interesting opportunities in Luxembourg. And then I would give the floor to Felipe, and if there's additional questions, I'm happy to answer.
Lovely, thank you very much, Sven. So let's start with the questions, right? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Então a gente pode começar com as perguntas. Podemos começar com as perguntas. I see Rogério has asked, what about the bilateral partnership between universities, Brazilian research groups, with Luxembourg University, company in the area of innovation and research? Well, do you have something to say, Sven?
Not directly. I'm not completely involved and aware about the collaboration landscape between the Luxembourgish university and the Brazilian one. That's something that I would need to further clarify at this stage. I don't know, Felipe, if you have further information on that.
Yeah, we do. Some few universities in Brazil have some kind of partnership with the Université de Luxembourg. But there are some really few universities. That's something that we are working on. On October, we are going to promote another webinar for companies that want to make some R&D projects in partnership with Luxembourg companies on the domain of the IRA SME. So it's going to be exclusively Brazilian. I don't think Chile is included. But in terms for R&D research collaboration between Brazil and Luxembourgish companies, we will have a webinar on October. The next call is going to be open March, and usually the projects take usually 6 months to be developed. So we're going to make we're going to have the webinar on October, so you have time to make your project for the call of March. Okay. Okay, I see here we have another question. Felipe, temos duas já podemos ficar com as duas depois. So there's a question here, Felipe. We have 2 health tech companies. Can we apply for both of them, or we should choose only one? So do they can repeat the name, and is it possible?
So technically speaking, it's possible to apply with 2 different projects. However, in the end, only one project could be technically speaking funded, and very often we advise the companies, the founders of the companies, to apply with the most promising company, and also maybe the company that has most interest in an expansion in Luxembourg or from Luxembourg.
So you say if we were like 2 partners in the company, we had 2 comments, we could not repeat like our names.
So it's 2 different people in 2 different companies that know each other.
No, I think if 2 people with they have 2 different projects, can they apply both of them, and then they're going to apply twice their names? Does it affect the application?
It probably does in a way affect the application. So technically speaking, as mentioned, it's possible, but in the end, probably the most promising project would be selected to the Fit for Start program, the one that has the biggest fit with the Luxembourg ecosystem, and that has the most promising, future anticipations in order to go international from Luxembourg.
Okay, so technically, if you apply both, you have more chances, right? Okay, so from Rico, is it necessary to stay in Luxembourg if you were honored with the resources to go ahead with our project?
If it's mandatory to be
in Luxembourg, yeah.
Yeah, so actually, if the program will finally be physical, and that's foreseen for the moment, a physical presence will be required, because the coaching activities and all other activities that are held throughout the program are happening face-to-face mainly. So all touch points with the coaches, with the juries are happening still at the moment face-to-face. So at the moment, the physical presence in the program is required.
Lovely. So do we have more questions? A gente tem mais alguma pergunta? ¿Tenemos alguna pregunta más? De Chile, tal vez? Algum outro brasileiro, talvez? Alguém quer fazer alguma observação?
Posso fazer uma?
Sim.
Quando eu fiz a pergunta a respeito dessa possibilidade de interação entre, por exemplo, instituições brasileiras que tenham, de alguma forma, startups já iniciadas nessa área de HealthTech, né, com alguma instituição de ensino ou empresa, porque muitas instituições de ensino, geralmente, pelo menos na Europa, né, de maneira geral, são fortemente associadas com indústrias ou empresas na área de biotech. Né? Então, de repente, assim, eu espero até outubro, ou de repente essa minha pergunta ela pode caber no tema desta reunião, ou melhor esperar outubro?
Não, isso eu posso responder. Você já pode fazer inscrição para esse programa, independente se a sua startup ela já é constituída no Brasil e independente dela ser associada a uma instituição de ensino ou não, nesse caso ela pode sim ser inscrita.
Ah, perfeito. Tem algum formato? Eu sei que na comunidade Schengen, né? Eu morei anos na Bélgica. Então, eu sei que tem, dependendo da instituição ou da empresa, existe algum tipo de formato ou uma estruturação oficial que nós temos que obedecer para poder preencher e enviar o projeto. Trata-se de um projeto que vocês vão dar essa formatação oficial, ou nós podemos nos basear nos formatos clássicos, né, padrões de projetos de pesquisa ou um projeto de uma startup comum?
Eu imagino que that's something that we have to ask to Sven. Sven, what's the right format to apply your startup? I think by the application that we have seen, there's no official format of startup, right?
So are we talking the legal form, or are we really talking the application form?
The application form, because it's basically what he's asking. Once those are basically the same question. So does the company have to already have a format, like a traditional format of the company?
Mm-hmm. So at the application stage, as mentioned before, we do not need a company yet. So if you are only at project stage, for example, and do not yet have a legal entity created either in Brazil, Chile, or Luxembourg, for example, you are still eligible to apply to the program.
Okay.
If we then talk at the later stage, a selection to the program, and talk about getting access to the financial support in the program, then you will be required to create a legal entity in Luxembourg, a legal commercial entity in Luxembourg. So, for example, non-profit organizations do not cut it. So it really needs to be a commercial companies in Luxembourg that require to be created. I hope that answers the questions.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay, got it.
Perfect, thank you.
Does someone else have a question? Mais alguma pergunta? Não pergunta mais?
Sim, por favor. E ainda dando continuidade à pergunta do colega, do Rogério Vaz, se eu fizer esse link entre universidade e startup, posso fazer esse link com uma universidade europeia, ou vocês estão visando essa chamada só aqui para a América do Sul, Brasil e Chile?
Vamos lá. Primeiro, a gente está discutindo o Fit for Start, que é o programa de seleção das startups, né? Então, esse link do Fit for Start é de uma startup que pode estar incubada numa universidade brasileira. Tá?
Brasileira,
aí,
ok.
Brasileira, mas ela preenche o formulário, como foi mostrado pelo Sven, e ela se candidata enquanto startup, independentemente da instituição.
Ótimo, obrigada.
Felipe, aqui é o Marcelo, eu tenho uma dúvida. Na realidade são duas. A primeira é obrigatório estar incubado em algum programa, porque a nossa startup ela nasceu de uma empresa normal que nós tínhamos. E a segunda o fundo, ele pode ser usado para essa mudança para Luxemburgo e para participação no programa, ou isso tem que ser recurso próprio?
Okay, so Marcelo, eu só vou talvez passar isso para inglês, como a gente tem aqui uma audiência chilena também, e o Sven também que não fala português, eu vou dar uma traduzida para que todos estejam a par. Pode ser a dúvida de um, pode ser a dúvida de muitos. A primeira, so his first question was if the company previously needed to be incubated somewhere. Sven?
No, no incubation is required before starting the project and applying to Fit for Start. So you do not necessarily need to be in an incubator already. So we have people that are hosted in every kind of places. So that's nothing that is required at application stage. And then in the program or from the program start on, you of course have the possibility in Luxembourg to be hosted in one of our partner incubators. So there you are free.
The second question was, I think you said before, but can you repeat how the funds, I mean the grants, can be used? What are the rules and what are specifically how they can be used? Because I think there's a common doubt here in Brazil and maybe in Chile as well, if they can use, for example, traveling for personal costs. What are the rules for using the grants?
Yeah, so first of all, maybe to clarify, travel costs and hotel costs, for example, for the program, before the program, for even around the pitching, they are not covered by the program. Clearly, the objective of the grant is to help the startup in really doing core startup activities. So further developing the MVP, adapting features of the minimum viable product, going for another version of the solution of the value proposition, but then of course also setting up first marketing campaigns, sales initiatives, maybe do first hirings also, maybe go for a sales person here in Luxembourg that can really support you in your expansion from Luxembourg to Europe. So that's clearly also something that is clearly one of the main objectives of this grant of up to 150,000 euros. So it's a bit of product development and a combination of product development and also business development activities.
Lovely, lovely. So Fabio Tabalipa, Marcel, do you have another question? I'm sorry. Marcel, você tem mais alguma questão?
No,
Okay.
that's fine. I understand what Sven have said, and I will be honored to apply for the program.
Thank you, Marcel. Sounds really good.
Okay, so the next one is Fabio Tabalipa wrote, are there any sources of information that you recommend so that we can analyze the scenario of hospitals in Luxembourg? I think we can provide this information with the Ministry of Health. I will ask you, Fabio, to contact me through my email, which is going to type right here. Please send me a message and I will help you to get in contact with the Ministry of Health in order to get all the information needed, okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Felipe.
Givago, is there a minimal preposition? Sorry, Givago, eu não entendi muito bem essa questão. Se você puder desenvolver aqui no texto, o que quer dizer com valor mínimo de proposta?
Eu queria saber, aqui eu vi no site que o valor máximo do financiamento é de 150 mil. Eu quero saber o valor mínimo, vamos dizer, se tem algum corte mínimo para esse financiamento.
Okay, so he's asking on how the grants work. I think you got wrong how it works. First, you got 100,000 euros, right?
No. First of all, let's start a bit even before. You are participating in the digital pitching sessions now in September, October. You are selected to the program as one of the 10 in ICT and one of the 5 in space or health tech. And then afterwards, you will create a legal entity here in Luxembourg. So you have a company in Luxembourg, and then you can apply to the first 50,000 euros. So the first 50K are unlocked with the selection and the creation of the company. And then at the end of the program, if you graduate from it, meaning that you have complied with all of the objectives from the jury and the coaches, and if you raise an additional 50,000 euros of private equity, and there we also have investors, for example, in the jury that can support you, of course, in getting access to those 50K, and you can comply to substance creation requirements, you can get access to the 100,000 euros, which is the second tranche of the grant. So in the end, you have 150,000 euros of equity-free subsidy, and you have the 50,000 euros of private equity that you also raised with the help of an investor.
Lovely, lovely. Is it clear? Givago? Okay, so we have another question. My husband and I, we have a project on our master's degrees. We're developing an app, a med app. Can we apply through our should we apply through our university or through our company? Para nossa empresa abrir as empresas no mesmo. We just opened the company. É uma pessoa vinculada à empresa. Yeah, the question here is just if they should apply through the company or through the university. I think the answer is through the company, right?
Yep, indeed. I think we also had in the past projects that applied that haven't had a company at application stage, so they applied kind of in the name or with the support, with the bag of the university. That's not an issue, of course. But if there is a company that is already existent, so you can clearly apply with the company, and then maybe it makes sense in one of the possibilities to give an answer to maybe mention that you are in collaboration or that you are backed from the university. So we have the complete picture in the application file, and the experts really concretely understand what you're doing.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, Fabio, thank you. Does someone have any other question? Alguém tem mais alguma pergunta?
If not, maybe one clarification and maybe one small correction on my side. I got a bit confused before about the question, about the very first question regarding double applications, second application. So actually we adapted that over the course of the last editions. So for the moment, only one application per startup is possible. However, what's different and what I got confused about is that startups can apply multiple times. So if you are not selected this time to Fit for Start, you can apply again. And if you are not selected after that, you can apply even again. And even if you are selected to the pitching day now and are not selected to the program, you still have the possibility to apply to the program again next year. I'm very sorry about the confusion before.
Yeah, that's something really important to point at.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of competition, right? And maybe this year there are lots of interesting projects, but it doesn't mean that your project is bad if it's not chosen now. So usually we have the Fit for Start selection program twice a year. So you should not give up. Just keep applying.
Indeed. So maybe to give you an example here, we had clearly companies in the past that applied the first time to the program and they didn't make it to the pitching days. And the second time they applied, they made it to the digital, or back then to the actual physical pitching and graduation day here in Luxembourg. They got the feeling about the event. They got the feeling also about the expectations from the jury, from the stakeholders of the program. Still couldn't make it, but however had the experience, applied again and went through and graduated successfully from the program, and also found afterwards interesting customers, interesting collaboration opportunities, and also follow-up funding in Luxembourg. So that's clearly something, as Felipe mentioned, no need to give up. It's a competition, clearly, and if you are not selected the first time to the program, that does not mean the projects are bad, not at all. That's something to point out clearly. Very good comments, Felipe. Thank you.
Indeed. ¿Alguna pregunta más? ¿Alguien de Chile, tal vez? Alguma pergunta? Se quiser, pode tirar o mudo e falar, ou se quiser digitar. Bem, eu acho que I think we have no other doubts, no other questions. I'd like to thank you, Sven. Muito obrigado, muitíssimas gracias. Philemons, merci. It's a pleasure having you here. I think we can collaborate. We are really happy and we really want to see lots of South American projects in Luxembourg. A todos e todas, a Embaixada Luxemburguesa, ela tem capacidade de dar todo o suporte para os vossos projetos, para as vossas candidaturas. Se vocês tiverem alguma dúvida relativamente a um ponto, seja do seu cliente, do projeto, um ponto mais específico de como é o Luxemburgo, de como é o mercado europeu, Vocês podem entrar em contato comigo, porque o Ministério da Economia tem toda a capacidade de ajudar na aplicação e a gente quer acompanhar-vos e a gente quer vocês crescendo e desenvolvendo os projetos de vocês no Luxemburgo. Y de la misma manera, saludo a todos mis hermanos chilenos. Primeramente, es un honor hacer esta acción en parcería con la Belgolux, la Cámara de Comercio chileno belgo-luxemburguesa. Es un orgullo trabajar con vosotros. Como he dicho, si vosotros tenéis una duda, si vosotros tenéis un proyecto que quiere llevar a Luxemburgo, la embajada, y que sea Brasil y es responsable por Chile, os puede ayudar. Nosotros tenemos todos los inputs, nosotros tenemos todas las informaciones y será un placer ver los proyectos chilenos tomando espacio y creciendo en Luxemburgo. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Muito obrigado a todos. Filmos, merci. Coloco-me à disposição. Estou à disposição de vosotros. E os deseo um boníssimo dia. Bom dia a todos. E, como a gente diz em luxemburguês, como decimos em luxemburguês, adi.
Adi, indeed. Thank you very much for your participation. If any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. I'm already seeing LinkedIn invitations, so please, very welcome to answer any questions. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Obrigado, pessoal. Boa tarde.
Adi.
Bye bye. Thanks, man.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.